I'm Howe. I'm the CFO of the Alumni Association, and I have a couple of colleagues here with me that I'll give them a second to introduce themselves as well. But I've been with UCLA about 3.5 years. I'm an adopted Bruin, and I've been the CFO for the last 2 years.
Hi, my name is Adrian Meza. I've been with UCLA for 10 years, and I'm an O4 Bruin, and I just recently joined the alumni team.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Spensieri, and I'm the accountant here at Alumni Affairs. I've been at UCLA for a little over 3 years and a little over 1 year here in Alumni.
So great. As we move through the session today, we want this to be as interactive as possible. We know sometimes compliance and policy information is a little dense, so please feel free to raise your hand, interrupt us. We welcome that interjection. Also, we have handouts, which I think everybody has. We wanted to keep the slides not so wordy, so you're not sitting there trying to read. But what we did is share the notes section, so a lot of what we're going to talk about that's not directly on the slide is in the notes pages, so you have that. You don't feel the need to have to write everything down that we say. We're going to make this available to you online as well and able to share. So please take notes if you'd like, but this will also be available after the fact as well. So a quick look at our agenda. We obviously done some intros. We're going to split up and each take a section of this, but Cynthia will talk to us about the annual compliance application, and I'm sure most of you are somewhat familiar with that process. Also talk a little bit, Adrian and Cynthia both will talk about revenue management, some other general network support, things that we can help you do to make your life easier. And then we'll wrap up with some treasurer policies, things we really need you to be doing or your treasurer to be doing, and some best practices, as well as then take a look at the portal, which is our alumni compliance portal, which has a lot of great resources as well. But before I move on, I know I met one treasurer this morning from Arizona. Anybody else that's a treasurer in the room? Okay, great, we have a couple of you. So doesn't mean you can't ask questions if you're not the treasurer, but certainly glad to see that we have a couple here. And with that, if nobody has any questions, I'm going to turn it over to Cynthia to continue to talk about some of the compliance, which is probably not nearly as interesting as athletics, but not any less important.
I'll try to make it as interesting as possible, but just bear with me. So this is the support group site. How many people have actually seen this or logged into this already? Supportgroups.ucla.edu. Actually, that's more than I was expecting, so I'm happy about that number. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what compliance is and why we ask you to do it. So when we have money,
Can you speak into the microphone?
sorry. So when we have money flowing through the university, we already have internal controls and safeguards in place to make sure we're using that money accordingly. But a lot of networks here have external bank accounts. So how do we monitor that? We use the compliance application to review your funds that you hold externally, like let's say you have a checking account at Wells Fargo. We also use the compliance application to review the activities that the network is hosting throughout the year. So it's really important that you fill out this application, and we ask you to fill it out only once a year. So, and like I said, it's available at supportgroups.ucla.edu. Each application has 7 sections. It's organization information, general information, risk management, accounts with financial institutions, revenue and expense statement, officer and member information, and tax-exempt documents. So this, again, is all of the notes of your PowerPoint presentation that you have, the handout that you have. The application usually launches in August and September, and they're supposed to be due in mid-October. So if you haven't filled out your application yet, please make sure you fill it out as soon as possible, and if you need help, let me know, because we can help you with that. So I usually, with the help of Adrian and Leah, I'm actually the one that looks at, we actually look at the application once you submit it, and if there's any questions, I'll send it back to you. I'll email your president, email your treasurer, and after it's approved, there's a certificate of recognition is issued to your network. So you need this to be recognized as an official support group of UCLA. So required elements. So like I said, a lot of networks do have external bank accounts. So you are required to upload copies of your bank statements for the past fiscal year. So we work on fiscal year, not calendar year. So the university, our year starts July 1st, to June 30th. So you need to make sure you upload all 12 bank accounts. If you just opened up a bank account, let me know because I'll be looking for 12 statements. And you can just send me a note so that way I know, like, hey, we just opened it up in November, so we're not going to have all 12. And I actually do kind of look through it, and I also make sure, just kind of look at your balances at the end of the year, and I do a pull every month, and I look at every one, make sure nothing's missing. So I will email you back if there's a month missing. The application also requires 2 signatures by your officers, and this is towards the end of your application. Has anyone in this room signed, has provided the signature on the application? Okay, perfect. So when you're providing those e-signatures, you're basically saying, you know what, I verify that this information in the application is correct. So it's, that's the last step in order for your application to be submitted. And then we also require member and officer information. So I need a list of your officers, email information, other contact information like your phone number, and a list of your members. So let's say you're the San Fernando network. You're not going to list every alumni in the San Fernando network, so you can just kind of upload a PDF that says, every alumni in the San Fernando Valley are considered members of our network, and that's enough. So I'm not going to require that you list everybody out. But it is a mandatory section, so you do have to upload them. And then the last thing that I do look for in a review are your bylaws. And with your bylaws, I look for 3 specific things, and there are 3 specific clauses, and I'm just going to reread them to you verbatim. The chancellor and the head of the sponsoring department are ex officio members of the governing body. Number 2, in the event of a dissolution, or if a support group elects to be a non-recognized organization, its assets will be transferred within 3 months to the Regents or the Campus Foundation, which is preferred in this case, as designated by the chancellor to be administered consistent with the terms of the individual gifts and purposes of the support group. Number 3, the president or designee, including the university auditor and director of financial control and accountability, and the chancellor, shall be authorized to receive information, records, and photocopies of transactions related to the accounts as may be necessary from any financial institution with which the organization maintains accounts. So if your bylaws right now don't have those clauses, talk to us afterwards and we can figure out how to resolve that. So, but just a heads up that these are things that I look for whenever you do your application. And I know some applications are still pending, so I've been working with networks to do that. So some other kind reminders when you're functioning as a network, that all solicitations for scholarship funds should be approved by our solicitation office. So as a network, if you are asking for gifts and monies for scholarships, these solicitations should be approved by the solicitation office before you send these requests out. If you feel like you don't know who to contact, please make sure to see us and we can provide you with that email address. So you're working with them when you're asking for funds. The other thing I just want to remind you is external bank accounts. So your accounts at Bank of America, Wells Fargo, that's for programmatic support only. Scholarship money should not be housed in your external bank accounts. And the reason for that is, as most of the people in, most of the networks in this room are not a 501c3. So if you're collecting donations, your donors are not getting receipted. And at the end of the year, people like tax deductions. So they're gonna claim that they made a donation, but the foundation doesn't have a record of that. So that's gonna cause a red flag with the IRS. And you want those tax deductions as a donor. So all scholarship funds are housed at the UCLA Foundation.
Question.
Yes, go ahead.
If we encourage people to go by this new membership model and encourage them to make contributions to the scholarship fund, I'm assuming that does not fall into this solicitation provision.
No, that'd be separate under the membership, because they're self-selecting to go make that versus if you were gonna make a push from the group and send out a communication for that, we wanna make sure that you work through our solicitation office to make sure appropriate language is included in that. But if they're just going directly to a membership site and making that gift, that's not an issue.
Well, what if I ask them to go directly to that membership site?
They're still self-selecting on the site, so you're okay. Julie, anything I need to add there?
Perfect. And so, yes, go ahead.
I got a question for you about you're talking about the donations and people getting recognized.
Yes.
There are a couple of events, handful, where we get either cash and or checks written to us and I deposit them into the bank account.
Right.
And at the end of the event, I generally send a transmittal up to you guys with the check to the foundation, with the Excel spreadsheet of who all the donors are and how much they donated, and then if any funds were not designated to a specific individual, so that you can balance it.
Right.
Balance the check. You are sending receipts out for that, correct?
Yes, you are submitting individual checks, right, not just one lump?
No, I submit one lump check with a spreadsheet of who what that is made out of.
We should talk probably offline, because the minute the check is written from someone other than the individual, such as the network becomes the legal donor. It's whose name is on the check that gets the tax credit,
Yeah.
so we can definitely talk on that.
And if you are, for whatever reason, you are collecting checks, we have forms that you can fill out.
I do. I have some transmittals for you guys. I send the transmittal up with a spreadsheet of who the actual people are that make up that check that's coming to you.
We should probably talk.
We can just talk offline.
Perfect, thank you.
But, so that's
Great question, though.
Yeah, and so that's very important to note, because you want your volunteers, you want your donors to be recognized, you want them to reap those benefits, so make sure that the donations really are truly going straight to the foundation so that they can get the appropriate tax receipt. The other last thing I'll talk about now and then also talk about later on is requests for external bank accounts need to be run and approved by Alumni compliance. So if you already have a bank account and you're thinking about switching banks, branches, or you don't have one and you're thinking about establishing one, make sure you get into contact with us. And I'll go into detail about what steps you need to take in order to do that. Okay, and so I'll hand it over to Adrian for revenue management.
Does anybody have any questions about the annual application compliance process before we move into a new topic? All right, great.
We all look riveted.
Do we need makeup yet?
If any of you actually enjoy this, please get in contact with me afterwards. We're meant to be friends. Okay, so a show of hands, which network groups here might collect funds at their events?
Really? A few more? Never?
How many people here might personally make a purchase for a network event and you want to get reimbursed?
A
Okay.
few more?
So this next section is for you. Disbursement versus reimbursement. So a revenue disbursement is when funds are collected via our online giving or event site without a gift component. And this is strictly for ticketed or registration revenue. And at that point, we can disperse it back to your network group's external bank account through an ACH, an automated clearinghouse. So think of it as an electronic fund transfer to your bank account. If we do have a gift component, please get in contact with us. We can walk you through the many scenarios involved with gift components. Now, after an individual has incurred an expense for consumables and or non-consumables, so think food or supplies, and the event is complete, they can be reimbursed They can get reimbursed by providing proof of payment and original itemized receipt. And I'll talk about that further on. We reimburse you through our two systems, our Brew and Buy and our Express system. So depending on what you buy, you could, in theory, get two checks from two different systems. Okay, so we'll just talk about this further. So disbursements, right there, that's when we have the online giving site or event site. You get an ACH, the electronic transfer we send you. ACH form and updated signed W-9 are on the portal. So Cynthia will show you how to get to that. And you can send your ACH, electronic, and please work with your AA liaison to get that done. Reimbursement A, which is consumables, food, we reimburse that through our Express system. You provide original itemized receipts, updated signed W-9. Unfortunately, we can only issue a paper check for this, so make sure your address is correct. And we'll talk about the other notes about following meal limits and providing guest lists later. Reimbursement B, non-consumables, so supplies for your event. We reimburse this through our Brew and Buy system. Same thing, original itemized receipts, updated signed W-9. Here we can issue you a paper check or, fortunately, an EFT, electronic funds transfer. This is done by filling out this EFT form. And I recommend it because even if you give us the wrong address, it goes straight into your bank account, and checks do get lost sometimes.
So you have a question?
Yeah, well, not a question, more, I would say more, but I'm sorry, I'm a finance person.
We should be friends.
Corporate finance person, so. I have what I would say is more of a gripe, but it's something for people to understand here. What I run into is that when you do disbursements, you're not on a shared services kind of platform, so they come out of different places, and everybody seems to want their own ACH or EFT form. So I've had to file 2 or 3 different with the W-9s, an ACH form, an EFT form, and
Yeah,
another
yeah.
EFT form.
It's because we have the 3 different systems, so that's giving you the 3 possibilities of what you have 3 different
And
forms.
so for me, the gripe is, why is there one shared service platform where everybody can use one?
But that is all of UCLA's correct.
But just so that people here know that if you submit for one, you
Yeah.
cannot get an EFT for the other if you haven't filed the form with.
Yeah.
Once you file with us once, though, we have them. We do have to update them periodically. Obviously, if it's a form from 5 years ago, we're not going to be able to reuse that again. But Cynthia, you maintain
And
that
if
on
you,
file.
yeah, and I do maintain it on file, so if you have already submitted an ACH or a W-9, let that person, that coordinator know that you've already submitted one to Cynthia, and they can come to me and they'll, they can get it from me, so you don't have to resubmit twice.
That's not the answer I got.
Oh, well, we can,
Follow up
we
with
can
us,
talk
yeah. I mean, we're big organizations, certainly start with us, and we'll check to see if we have it on
Because
file.
I did, I sent through and said, here's a copy of the one I submitted 6 months ago. Why can't you just, no, we need our own platform form?
Now, that is great feedback, and what you just provided us with is a teachable moment for us.
Right. That's something we can share with all of our network staff, because if you've worked with a couple different groups, maybe somebody doesn't know that's on file, so we'll communicate that.
Thank you.
I have a question. Does this mean you can't reimburse people out of our checking account anymore?
You can reimburse, if you are paying, if you guys have an external bank account and you go buy napkins and you want to get reimbursed, your treasurer can reimburse you. This is more if you have funds at the foundation and you want to kind of request a reimbursement from that money that's sitting at the foundation. You have to go through this system and you have to submit certain forms for that.
Does that make sense? It's a difference between having an external bank account, and we're going to talk about what's recommended for reimbursing that way, versus having a fund at the UCLA Foundation that is allowed to be used for programmatic activities, of which many of you have. Obviously, that routes through the university system, and we have some checks and balances. So that's why we have the various systems.
But your treasurer should also have these checks and balances when you're dealing with your external bank account, you know, keeping receipts and so forth, so make sure you.
We'll talk about that as well.
So accounts payable guidelines, original itemized receipt that show form of payment. So you get that receipt and it says, you know, MasterCard, Visa, or cash on it. That shows form of payment. So if you do not have that, we accept secondary form of showing that you paid for the item. So copy of your credit card statement with everything redacted except for the item and your name. You know, we don't want to sit there with a black marker redacting everything. Business justification, the who, what, when, where, and why of your event. If you need help crafting a UCLA worthy justification, just contact your alumni liaison. All supporting documentation should be submitted within 45 days after the expense has been incurred. Reason being, anything after 45 days, they might ask for further justification as to why it took longer than 45 days to get the invoice. So we ask that you give us that as soon as possible. University works on a net 30 policy. That means you give us the invoice, the receipt on Monday. That's not day one. Day one begins when we submit it to UCLA. So it will get done faster than 30 days, but they generally give themselves a 30-day window to get everything done. So if it's a peak time, it might take the 30 days.
Follow the policy, get all your paperwork in one piece very quickly, and it can happen faster.
Contractual language must be reviewed by UCLA purchasing. So if Alumni Affairs is going to issue a payment on behalf of the network to go directly to a vendor, if it has anything beyond, you know, price of food and then the amount, I would submit it to us so we can make sure that you will not be held liable for if someone slips and falls. So UCLA purchasing, you know, that's their job. They make sure that we aren't being held liable for anything we shouldn't, you know, necessarily have to pay for. So this protects us and the network group. So even if you're not sure, if you see a signature line, you think, oh, am I signing something that I don't know what I'm signing? Submit it to us so we can make sure that you're not signing away, you know, liability. Entertainment guidelines. Attendance list is required, including affiliation. So what does this mean? A numbered guest list. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, every number on every line. Otherwise, accounts payable will sit there and count it one by one. And if I were, you know, if I was doing that, that gets put in a separate pile. So give us this. Name of attendees, their affiliation, and their role relationship with UCLA. So staff, donor, you know, faculty, anything like that. Business justification, reason why you're having food at the event. Tips should not exceed 20% of the pre-tax value. Reason being, UCLA does not reimburse anything above 20%. So unless the service is great and you want to pay for the difference, I would not do that. Alcohol is discouraged at events where minors will be present. So if there's going to be people under 21, just use your best judgment. We don't want to be in the news. Let me know. University meal limits. These are per person limits. So breakfast 26, lunch 45, dinner 78, and light refreshments. Light refreshments being like cheese and crackers before an event. If you're having an event at 2 p.m. and you're saying, oh, it's dinner, that might not work with our accounts payable because
Sometimes the refreshments are part of the package for the room. How do you account?
we'll talk about that in a minute. So we'll talk about the next slide. This includes the cost of labor, delivery fees, all that. The room is separate. That's not included in this per person limit. So if that, I don't know if you're talking about in terms of the room costs or just everything else.
Well, often the catering contract will include the expense for the room with the minimum order.
So the room is separate from that. If they can't separate the cost of the food from the room, come talk to us. We'll have to figure that out. This is a little different scenario. But generally, they should be able to separate the cost of the food from the cost of the room.
And that doesn't factor in. So if you have flowers, you have
Yeah.
a room rental, and you have AV set up, that doesn't go into the per person. But what does is your food and beverage cost, and then bartenders or caterers, people working, and your service charges associated with that. So if you have questions, let us know. We can help you calculate that.
Does the 20%, is that already included in the $26 amount, or is that 26 plus?
Yes, it's already
It's
included.
inclusive, inclusive of tip.
Yeah.
Oh,
Take your calculators. Oh, there we go. So event distinction, what does this mean? You have a reception before the dinner. This will be treated as the same event. So the per person meal limit would apply for both activities. However, if they are separate, you need separate guest lists, separate purpose, separate time to actually warrant that these are actually two separate events. So you need to provide that. Ticketed revenue is not a justification for exceeding meal limits. What does that mean? Let's say you charge $200 to go to your dinner. Dinner costs $200, so it's a wash. That does not work for accounts payable. So if you anticipate an overage for the meals, you'd have to submit what's called a pre-conceptual approval request to the Alumni finance team. That's Cynthia and I. And you have to include these items below: the banquet order, event order, event justification, estimated number of guests, and overage justification. So if you do anticipate an overage, please contact us and we'll help walk you through the process. And we ask that you let us know at least 7 to 10 days before the event if you think there's going to be an overage, just so we can get it approved all over campus.
And just for clarity's sake, this is only if we have money housed at you guys' account,
Yes,
right?
yes. And we're
Money
gonna-
coming through the foundation.
Okay.
So
If you're also receiving a reimbursement from, if we decide to help you with an event, if they're close to the university, then you'll be subject to all these policies.
And that's a great point. I know it's a lot of information. It seems like a lot of red tape that we on campus are subject to following the policies of the Office of the President. And all recognized support groups are also under that umbrella. And if you want to read the full 16-page policy, you'll find it in there. But this is really the important takeaways, that we are a public institution. We are subject to public records requests. We have had some pretty visible ones in the last couple of years, which led to changes on campus in our travel and entertainment policy, that they are very strictly scrutinized, which takes more time. So that's why we wanted to share this information, so you have it up front. We can work with you when you anticipate challenges or issues, so we can get things made quickly and within policy. And if anything doesn't make sense, please just ask, because it is a lot of information. And we've been going through this about 1.5 years on campus now, and it's still a challenge for some of our staff. So we expect there to be questions.
Any questions on the entertainment policy?
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out, is this just if we use the foundation money or
Yes.
money from you? So our own network events, our own regional don't have to apply.
Correct. But if UCLA is going to cut a check in any aspect, these rules apply.
Those are going to apply. So we just be mindful of those. Obviously, if you're writing a check out of your own checkbook that doesn't flow through our office, we don't have that oversight, but we just make sure you're mindful of that, because then if you do an event down the road where you do, we want to make sure people understand it's applicable.
So this applies to all the events where we send out, you guys send out the email that says the RSVP, and you collect the funds on our
Yes.
behalf.
If we're paying the invoices, yes. And you're
Question
running
is, we're collecting the funds.
If you're collecting the funds and we ended up giving all of that revenue back to you,
Right.
and it's just going to stay in your external bank account, then you can decide how much you want per person, because at that point in time, we're kind of out of the loop. We've given you what you've collected, and
So if
you're
you're
not,
just a pass-through, if
If
you're
it's
just a
just a
pass-through
pass-through,
organization, then
and
you're not subject to that.
Exactly. But if, for whatever reason, you're collecting funds and we give it back to you, but then at the same time, Christine decided to help you out with some portion of the event, and one bill is going to be flowing through the university, then your event is subject to the bill limits.
So you said, now let me go back to the second thing you said, where you guys may decide to help us with an event.
Meaning, we're going to reimburse you for some of the cost.
I guess, then what kind of thing would fall into that kind of category? Would be something that-
Let's say, you have a budget for $800 for an event, but turns out the vendor's going to cost you $1,000, and Christine decided to kind of help supplement you for whatever reason. It doesn't happen often, but if it does, whatever that $200 overage is, and if it pays for food, it's gonna have to go through Christine, because she's decided to reimburse you for that.
All of that information, in order for us to get a check cut, whether it's to the vendor or a reimbursement back to somebody in the network, is subject to all of that information being supplied to our accounts payable.
And I can give you some more examples offline too.
Yeah.
Particular, or specific to your network.
Yeah, 'cause I have one in particular, now I
Right.
wonder if we shouldn't come to you guys.
Okay, we can talk after.
Okay, so I'm also going to talk about general network support. So these are other things that we can provide you as a network. So like I mentioned earlier, under compliance, opening up a bank account and obtaining a TIN number. So if you already have a bank account, you already have a TIN number. But if you are just thinking about establishing one, these are the steps you need to take in order to do that. The first one is to determine the business need and preferred bank. Why do you need one? Where do you want a bank? Identify at least 2 authorized signers on the account, and these should be the 2 signers should be on your board of directors. One of them could be the treasurer, the other one the president. You guys get to decide, but at least 2. And it's also important to document this within your network. And you can also let us know as well. The third one is to discuss opening the account with the UCLA Alumni Affairs Network staff. So whoever your liaison is, Christine, Patricia, Sia, go ahead and make sure you communicate to them that you're thinking of opening up a bank account. After that, you can submit a formal request to the Alumni Compliance Office, which is us, via email, and we'll give you that email later. Once it's approved, we're going to go ahead and work with the IRS, and we'll give you your tax ID number. So that's your network's kind of social security number. So it's really your responsibility to keep that on file, because you are going to need it when you're dealing with other vendors in the future. So I can't stress that enough. Make sure you keep that TIN number on file, because once we issue it out, it's kind of like losing your driver's license. You don't want to do that. Just go ahead.
Our board, a lot of people are new to the board, and so
Right.
as it is now, we have an external account,
Right,
but the signers are long gone.
right.
And so we're kind of frozen out of we don't even know how much
So we can definitely talk offline and figure out a solution, because I know last week someone had an issue with the bank, and it's very similar to that. And we can work out some things with your bank, but most likely you might need to go back to the IRS, get your TIN number, and kind of, some banks might require additional forms that kind of prove that those members are no longer active in your network, and that new signers have to be kind of reinstated. And that's really important too, because they still have access to that bank account, and I don't know if there's money in it, so it's really important to just update signers annually, or however, as often. If you have a treasurer who's kind of transitioning out in a new one, you want to make sure the first thing you do is go to the bank, make sure that signer is off, and put the new one in, so that doesn't happen. But we can talk offline and figure out a solution for that.
Okay, but so then typically, if boards change annually, then
If,
SIG cards are changed every year?
not your TIN, but your signers
But the
on.
SIG cards, the signature cards.
the account.
Or
Yeah.
Benedict.
Okay.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
And then the last thing you do is open up a bank account at your preferred institution. So I've had some networks come to me and say, you know what, the bank is asking me for A, B, and C, and all I have is my TIN number. Well, keep us in the loop and we can help you, because most likely there's just some miscommunication going on and you really just need your tax ID number. But once you loop us in, we can help you and you can open up that bank account Meza. Any questions about bank accounts? Okay, perfect. The last, next thing I'm going to talk about is insurance. So insurance is extremely important. It protects the network, your attendees, the alumni association, and the university. So we have UC policy that extends to our network. So basically, it provides coverage to you as a network. We want to make sure you're submitting insurance requests for all events at least 5 to 7 business days in advance. And when I say all, I really mean all. Like even if it's just a book club, even if it's just a board meeting, a general meeting, a game watch, please submit insurance requests for all events. And the reason for this is even if you have just a book club, nothing really, no physical activity, but you're having food, somebody might get sick and they might try to hold you liable after the event. Or if somebody trips and falls, that might cause an issue. But if you have an insurance certificate, you are protected because of the UC policy. Because of the UC policy extends to you. You can submit requests online at ucla.marshcampusinspections.com. And I know a lot of networks have been doing it, and Marsh is really good at getting back to you really quickly with an insurance certificate. So I've done the application a lot of times. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes to fill out, so it's not a lot. If there's specific language required, so sometimes you're working with the vendor and they need specific language on the insurance certificate, just keep in mind that that might take a little bit longer, and you cannot request specific language on the website. You have to submit a paper application. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there when you're planning your event. Just keep that in. Our recommendation to you is to designate one person of your network to be responsible for all of the insurance certificates so that you know that each event that you host as a network is backed up with an insurance certificate, and also designate a backup volunteer for that too. Let's go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just wondering, do we pay additional, or is it just paperwork to insure ourselves?
Yeah, UC policy, it extends to network, so there's no fee for that. So you really want to make sure, this is a great tool. So make sure that each event you have, all it takes is a little bit of paperwork. Yes. I'll get back to you.
That was my same question, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
Do you have to do each one individually, or can you submit a calendar and say, since we have every third Thursday we do this, or every third day of a month we do this, every first Monday we do this?
Right now, from my knowledge, we don't have that ability, but if you talk to me offline, and I can work with Marsh because I have a contact there, and we can talk specific to your network, because if you are
I think we should probably use that for all networks.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
follow up.
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, if it's always at the same place, same location, we may have an option. If you're moving around, we're gonna have different locations. My guess is you'll have to have one per location, but
We do something similar as of now for the Alumni Association. We have an event taking place in different locations on the same day. So Marsh works with us too. They're pretty flexible.
Yeah, I think we should do that, we'll research that for all networks.
sure, absolutely. There's some.
Two questions. I think one of it refers to what we just discussed. But with the insurance, it's not a blanket policy for the network in general. You have to apply every time. Is that the thing?
We do ask that you request a certificate that's specific to the one event that you're hosting, because it does require you to answer a set of questions that's specific to the event that you have.
There's gonna be a start
There
and an
is
end time.
Yes.
And then what
coverage.
about limited liability for individual board members? Does it cover, because it doesn't say individual board members, it talks about the network, your attendees, the Alumni Association. What about the people, the volunteers who are actually, volunteering and running the organization?
It's not specific to a board member, but if a board member is opening their home, that's going to provide coverage if somebody falls in your home or gets sick from eating food in your home. But it's not a board of directors policy, to my understanding.
What is the coverage? How much coverage you give us?
It also, they ask you a series of questions, and I think the insurance certificate that's issued to you depends on the questions that you ask. It'll ask you a variety of questions, what kind of risks are there going to be at the event, and depending on those questions, the coverage will be provided based on your questions. And sometimes, additional coverage might be needed if you're working with a specific vendor, and Marsh can also do that for you.
But it's still, that's not at cost. They're gonna make some assessments. If you're having an event on a boat, we're gonna have a lot of insurance. That's actually one of the questions.
That's one of the, is your event taking place on the waterfront?
If it's a book club that you're having tea over in somebody's home, it's probably going to be a
Just the general
basic
limit.
coverage.
I can find out the details for you too, and share that with everybody.
With the alumni band, we've been together for 40 years. We've never done this. And no one's ever brought it to our attention that, hey, fellas, you need to have your policy, your event covered. So we've been exposed for all these years. Because we've always thought we're covered by the university's insurance policy.
Well, that's why we're really happy that you're here with us.
PSA, the more you know.
Who's here to do this currently?
A lot of our groups.
I do get a lot of, and actually we also have our emerging networks. Sometimes our emerging networks are actually doing this now. They're not listed as a drop-down menu, but they're contacting us, and we offer that service to them too.
So we're talking about going forward. Now we all know we will have insurance at our events.
Okay, I just want to verify, every meeting we have, the third Wednesday of the month in the faculty center has to have an insurance form.
Well, like Julie said, since this is kind of a scenario similar to yours, I'm going to go ahead and do some more research, and then I can provide an update on what to do about these regular events and see if that really truly is necessary.
Because I was kind of under the impression that when we filled out the compliance form,
Right.
we started to do that, we had to list when these meetings were, that they weren't really like events, they were just
Right.
meetings. That needs to be handled, the insurance.
If you're gonna have food
The dates.
or any sort of activity,
Yeah,
you should
and-
have a certificate.
Yeah, and people fall, get sick, really can't control what's going to happen. So, but like, I'll do some research on these regular events and see what we can do to help you with that, so that everybody who has these regular events can maybe use it.
So even on-campus events at UCLA still need to be insured separately?
If your network is hosting it, we do recommend, like, if you are primarily responsible for that, we do recommend that you submit an insurance request for that.
We do events here. We do events that are happening here. So,
Are there any more questions? One more slide.
So other general network support that we provide, we help collect funds via the online giving and event site. If you need help doing that, please contact your alumni staff liaison. And one other thing I want to mention, if there is no gift component, alumni parents will absorb the credit card fees. So what does that mean? You use PayPal or Eventbrite, they charge you 2 to 3% per transaction, and then maybe $1 fee per transaction. We don't charge you anything. So whatever you bring in is what you get back. So.
But the only issue with that is that you guys take longer to give us back our money.
Yeah, we take a little bit longer to get your funds back, but depending how
you
big
get more of it.
you get all of it back. Makes the math easier too. So.
And I just want to add, if you have your ACH form on file with us and all of the documents, we kind of, it's not, I don't think it's that long. Usually our office who we work with, they're really good at processing those ACHs.
If we can maybe just get an ETA with stuff like that, I know for us, when we try to plan events and we have to close registration maybe 2 days before an event,
Right.
It would be nice to really know when real time we could get that money back, because oftentimes I have to pay upfront
Right.
and then wait for it to be reimbursed back. So just if we can maybe get real solid timelines around reimbursement. I know for the other one you said 5 to 7 days for some stuff, but especially with the ACH, just realistic time.
We promise within 30 days, but what's most important, whoever you're working with, so if it's one of your regional network staff, is that information, your ACH, if it's not on file, the paperwork that's needed, your guest list, and the detail of who paid and the amount due. we can turn that around very quickly, but we don't know when to go chase them down. So it's very important that whoever you're working with on the networks team brings that information to us, especially if it's a rush. So you've been out $2,000 on a credit card, we know that. That's going to be a priority for us, but we don't know that all the time. So it's really important that we partner with that contact on the networks team so we get all the information right away. And we're always, you can always let us know if there's something that we need to try to push through as quickly as possible. We'll do everything we can to do that.
And the other thing we now offer is that tablets for silent auctions are now available along with regular ticketed items. We ask that you give us like 7 to 10 days notice of the event. We only have so many on hand. We're not an Apple store. Next, collecting cash on site is discouraged, but we know sometimes it's unavoidable. When you have what we call an opportunity fund, but as a raffle, but don't call it a raffle because of the IRS implications, you might have to collect money. Now, if that's going to happen, please contact us so we can help you walk through the cash policy. And it's more of to keep you safe and the money safe because there's just issues when cash is involved. So please give us a call if you, for any reason, think cash might be involved.
Okay.
Vehicle.
Yeah.
You said don't call it a raffle, what should you call it?
Opportunity drawing.
Opportunity drawing.
Yes.
IRS is very interested in raffles. We do not want to call it a raffle.
It's in your.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Right there. Opportunity drawing. Put little quotations around it so you remember.
Any other questions? We're in the home stretch. Getting close. I know we're keeping you from lunch, so I will move quickly through this last part. But want to talk just a little bit more. I know we have a few treasurers in the room. There are things that treasurers are required to do under the support group policy issued by the Office of the President. So I'm going to talk about those, but then also some best practices, things that will help you to stay organized, things that will help you to stay out of trouble and have money go missing. So network treasurer policies, these are the things as a treasurer, someone in your organization that plays the treasurer role is required to do. So you are the keeper of that tax ID number. If you don't have it as the treasurer, let's get it for you. So let us know. That is your responsibility to keep track of that number. And as I'm not certain who that was that brought up the point, those leaders are long gone. Tracking down that tax ID number is not the easiest thing in the world. So please safeguard that. You can have one outside checking account. So it is the responsibility of the treasurer to be the primary custodian of that. And as Cynthia mentioned, we need to have a written record of all authorized check signers. And there's a requirement of checks of $1,000 need 2 signatures. In addition to that, if the treasurer is ever reimbursing themselves for an item, which is probably not that uncommon, there needs to be 2 people signing that check. And so when you set up your authorized signers, make sure there's people available, most likely the president or someone else on your board, to do that. The other thing that's really, really important about your bank statements, so obviously the treasurer is going to be getting those. They're going to be reviewing them, whether they do it online or have them mailed to them. They should be validating on a monthly basis, deposits going in, expenses going out, checks were ones that you cut. But somebody else, whether it be the president, someone else on the board, needs to receive the statement and review it. That's your checks and balances to make sure, while we trust all our treasurers, we know they're good people, the ability for fraud exists. Should I not trust you?
Yeah, you trust me.
Yes.
Question though about that, since we are now living in the electronic age, and you can, generally most banks want you to get things electronically
Yes.
delivered. So what I have done is set up myself and 2 other people as users to go in and log in online and can look at the statements if they so choose. The question is, I don't know if they do it or not.
Sure.
Is that whose responsibility? I've told them this is, you have access to it, you can go in and look, you're supposed
Right.
to have, the compliance
Right.
statement says, or the compliance application says, to
Right.
people, you were supposed to have access to the statement.
Sure. I mean, of course, can I sit there and make somebody log in or read through a piece of paper? No. But your job as a treasurer is to communicate. It's their responsibility. We're signing off on compliance documents saying we're doing it. And this will keep you in compliance. It takes 2 seconds. I'm sure, I don't know who writes checks anymore. I imagine if they do it for themselves, spending 5 minutes a month, to log in and double check and make sure expenses are legitimate. Shouldn't be too much of an issue. If you sense that it is, I'm more than happy to give your president or whoever that person may be a call and encourage them that this is very important. Obviously, just like we all reconcile our checkbook once a month at a minimum, we should be looking at, the treasurer should be looking at these expenses and any other deposits. And as I mentioned, 2 signatures on the $1,000 checks. That is UC policy, so please make sure you're adhering to that. That's an easy audit point if you ever write a big check and there's not 2 signers on it that we can see. So now some best practices. These are the things that should just help you stay in compliance, stay organized. As the treasurer, you want to obviously maintain somewhere in your files all your external, which should be 1 bank account, and then any internal financial accounts. So how many funds you have at the foundation. Some have scholarships, some have multiple scholarships, some have programmatic funds. Make sure you're always aware and have a good tracking of what accounts you have. So when you have transition, that's easy to turn over. For reimbursement, so as we talked about, when you have things running through the university, best practices apply here too. When you're reimbursing someone for purchases they've made, ask for original receipts that are itemized, showing what the money has been spent on. If you want to come up with a little form that says who, what, when, where, why, we're more than happy to help with that. You can attach that directly to the receipt. Reporting out at your board meetings, that's just a level of transparency we recommend for all our groups. Letting people know what the balances are in your accounts. Quarterly, the foundation sends out fund reports. Make sure you're reviewing those. The expense or anything going in or out looks appropriate. As money comes in, if you're taking in money for an event, obviously get that to the bank as quickly as possible so things don't get lost. Pay invoices in a timely manner, and obviously, as the treasurer, really taking the lead on compliance. And that's where our office is always here to help if there are questions. I'm going to talk a little bit about petty cash. I'm going to ask, do any of your groups have a petty cash fund? Cash box that somebody keeps locked up? If nobody has one, I'm going to do a little happy dance. Yay! That's wonderful. We do know there's some groups out there. We know it's unavoidable, but I want to make sure if you become aware, or if one of your groups wants to have a petty cash fund, we advise against it, but no, it's unavoidable. These should be small amounts. It shouldn't be a fund with more than $250, and it's really there and available to reimburse for small expenses. So if somebody goes out and spends $5 on markers that you're using at an event, you can reimburse them through a petty cash fund. It's not there for, if I'm going to go spend $200 on food, to me a small reimbursement is really like $25 or less. But you need to have a custodian assigned to that, one person that is responsible for safeguarding that cash. And that when you're sending out, dispersing money, reimbursing individuals, you need to collect the same information. You need receipts supporting the expense and why the money was expensed, who you gave that money to. There should be a tracking of any money coming in and out of the fund. And then the cash on hand plus any receipts should always equal the maximum amount of the fund. So if I have a fund of $250 and I have reimbursed individuals for $100, you need to have receipts for $100 and cash of $150. If you don't, then you're out of balance and something's off. And we really discourage petty cash just because cash on hand, there's just the availability for fraud, there's the availability for someone to misplace money. So we really discourage it. If you do have one, it needs to be locked up, whether that be in a safe or inside a desk. So please make sure whoever's assigned as the custodian has a way to safeguard that. And then obviously a couple of just best practices. Someone other than the custodian should do a count at some point throughout the year, ideally not when the custodian knows it's happening. So they can just do a double check. But you should make sure that the custodian is there and present. So you're not doing anything that they aren't seeing. And then any discrepancies, if it's not the network treasurer as the custodian, report to them. If it is the treasurer as the custodian, just make sure you go to the board of directors or if you expect anything off. So if you can avoid it, don't have it. If you're going to have it, let us know. We can help you with that. And in the notes, there's a link to policy on that. Any questions about general treasurer guidelines, policies, requirements? All right, well then Cynthia's going to quickly demo the alumni support portal, which will give you an idea of where to go for a lot of this information.
So just again, the website is supportgroups.ucla.edu. The login button is in the top left. And just use your email address. And once you log in, you'll see these tabs. You'll see only one application here, and that should be specific to your network. And I just wanted to point out that we just created this alumni support group tab, and there's important documents uploaded here so that you can have them when you need to fill them out. The first one is directions on how to request a March insurance certificate. The second one is the paper application. Like I said, you can also do a paper application if you don't want to do it online for insurance. The third one is the IRS W-9. As of, I think, the last time they updated it was December 2014. So once it updates, I can replace this. The ACH form, and there's also instructions for the ACH, and there's also a glossary of terms for that will help you with your foundation quarterly report.
We will be adding this presentation up to this section as well next week.
And if you have any items you think that should be uploaded under this tab, just email us. We're happy to upload them for you.
We really want this to be seen as a resource for our groups, so please don't hesitate to contact us. If there's something you readily ask for from anywhere within Alumni, we can certainly work on getting that posted to the portal. Yeah, sure.
Since many of our treasurers are not here, is there a way for us to get this PowerPoint to them sooner than just handing it off?
Sure. It'll be on the site, so you are more than welcome to share that. If there's somebody you would prefer we email it to, we can take that. But that's actually a great segue. We know we have networks across the country, across the world, as well as just people that maybe weren't able to join us today. We can easily set up some time for an Adobe Connect session where we can be on the phone and walk those individuals through the PowerPoint just like we did today. So if there are people in your group that you would like us to do this for, please let us know. We can arrange that. We're also available if they're local or planning to be in this area. We're always available to set up some one-on-one time. And our goal is really to offer an updated version of this training at least once a year, obviously probably a little earlier in the year once we know we have new officers. So please just don't hesitate to contact us. We really want to be a resource for all of you. We know it's a lot of information. We don't expect you to memorize it all. So when the time comes and you have questions, you can reach any of us here. We also have phone numbers listed on the website. So any other questions about any of the topics we covered? Everybody's hungry and ready for lunch. Oh, wait. What's that? Do the login and password?
Oh, if you don't have access already, I can help you.
Yep.
No, I was going to ask the same question. The notice that you did that,
Right.
logged on,
Yes.
is that open to anybody?
It should be the network leadership. You can get to the site and access the information, the general support. Right. That is not restricted, so that drop down, that's available to anyone.